Welcome to Luminescence, Common Sense Spirituality, a show designed to share spiritual insights with you so that you can comprehend the universe and how it functions. You are about to experience raised consciousness. This is a place where spiritual principles are shared with the goal of assisting you to expand your understanding of both the seen and unseen worlds. Luminescence Common Sense Spirituality helps you to discern the timeless truths handed down from wise sages through the ages, from the airy-fairy nonsense that is being taught today. Now, here is your host, Lynn Wyeth.
Welcome to Luminescence, Common Sense Spirituality, the radio show that disseminates esoteric knowledge and common sense spirituality. I'm Lynn Wyeth, creator of namology science, the ability to know all about a person's personality and the soul's purpose from a person's name. Now, the beautiful music you just heard is called Shine by Dee L'Amour, and we always end our program with her song that's called Shine, and you can hear more of her music by visiting her website, delamour.com. That's DLEMOR.com. Now, our topic today is how the Plejarian, a non-terrestrial group who has worked with Billy Meier since 1942, look at the Earth's spiritual thoughts and teachings. Where do they agree with our religions and where do they disagree? What spiritual principles do they live by? And what happens when we go to the great beyond? Plus, what do the Plejarians say we must learn to stop being on the wheel of reincarnation? How do the Plejarians view God? Now, this is going to be a highly controversial show, starting with who Billy Meier is and then what philosophies are shared. Now, it's important always to consider alternative narratives, even if you initially disagree with them, even if you permanently disagree with them, because it gets us thinking. And Billy Meier's materials definitely get us thinking outside of the box. And I thought with all of the articles lately and the back chatter about ETs and what's happening with the Galactic Alliance and everything, this would be a perfect time to have Michael Horn on with us. Because Michael Horn is the authorized American media representative for the Billy Meier contacts, which he has researched since 1979. Now, Michael is, along with his wife Amy, the co-producer of the new documentary, As Time Fulfills, which presents an abundance of ironclad, prophetically accurate scientific evidence that irrefutably authenticates Billy Meier's case. Now, he's the writer and co-producer of the award-winning feature-length documentary, The Silent Revolution of Truth, as well as the writer, producer, and narrator of the DVD, The Meier Contacts, The Key to Our Future Survival. So, Michael, I am so pleased you agreed to join me. I know I've had you on my other shows, and I'm just so looking forward to talking with you again.
Well, thank you, Sharon. I'm glad to be here. It's one of those times in history where many things now become far more important in terms of determining what's true and what isn't true. And that, of course, is up to each individual person. And, we'll just try to discuss the kind of the information, the evidence, whatever you think is important for your audience as well. And I appreciate the opportunity again. We indeed have spoken before.
Many times, especially when I'm a host on other people's shows. So,
yes.
So what I'm really curious about, because there's so much going on right now that says that everything we've ever been taught is a lie, okay? And there's been some books published in that regards, too, that ask us to rethink everything. So before we get started, because I really want to get into the philosophy and the teachings, but first I think it's important for people to know who Billy Meiers is.
Sure. Billy Meier is a soon-to-be 85-year-old Swiss man. He claims that since he was a boy of 5 years of age, in 1942, that he has been meeting voluntarily, having face-to-face meetings with members of an advanced space-traveling extraterrestrial race who tutored him and educated him along with his regular education in life. He has, since 1964, most people don't know it goes back that far back, has presented actual physical evidence of the craft that these people fly. This is, of course, all of his evidence is from the era that we would call pre-digital and pre-computer. So, of course, skeptics tried to attack him for years and decades as having hoaxed this stuff. He has been, since about 1965, a one-armed man. He lost his arm in a bus accident in Turkey back then. And so since then, since his first photographs in 1964, he came forward in 1975 with the newer evidence and presented it through 1981. And everything is remarkably clear, still irreproducible, fantastically astounding, because we're looking at craft that were clearly not made on our planet, and they're not models, not miniatures. So Meier, in addition to that, the UFO evidence, which of course many people are fascinated with the UFO element, but even more important than that is a great amount, a voluminous amount of specific, prophetically accurate scientific, environmental, geopolitical, economic, financial information, error-free, that he has published actually beginning around the time he was 9 or 10 years of age. So this is a truly remarkable, I could say low-key individual, because he doesn't run around promoting himself or his evidence. He doesn't give public presentations and speeches. Yes, he's in a number of videos where I, along with other people, have done interviews with Billy. But that's it. Everything is up to the individuals who are interested to investigate, to research, to determine the truth for themselves. So that's a really tiny nutshell version of who Billy Meier is, you know? Yes.
So let's get into his teachings, okay? So
sure.
He's doing his best to share the true teachings of creation, for an example. So
yes.
In his story of Jesus, it's got some very different points of view than what we've been taught. For an example, who Judas is. Would you please talk to us about that?
Sure. So let's go back to, just so we start to get the information really straight in terms of the way he presents it, there never was anyone known by the name of Jesus Christ, Jesus of Arimathea, whatever. There was another man, a man upon whose life and writings and teaching the fictitious Jesus Christ was based. Now, of course, people are going to go, well, that's nonsense. Of course, So here's what because I started to research this information to find out, well, could this be true? Is that true? Is it false? What's the story? So I went looking for a biography of Jesus Christ. And I don't mean religious texts about Jesus published decades after these events, supposedly occurred back there in the Middle East. I wanted to find a biography of Jesus Christ. None such exists. There is no such thing. There's no biography of Jesus Christ. Now, this is a problem because arguably the most famous and important human being that ever lived is supposedly Jesus Christ. Well, are we saying that the whole thing's made up? And the answer is no, not the whole thing. According to this information, the man who lived at this time and who taught and prophesied and gathered disciples, 17 of whom were female, which has been expunged from the Bible. His name was Emmanuel, and in the Meier material, they use a J for Emmanuel, J-M-M-A-N-U-E-L. In the Old Testament, you have Emmanuel, and in the New Testament, you have Emmanuel. Each time, to the best of my knowledge, published once. Let's see, it's in the Old Testament in Isaiah, I think it's 7:14, and his name shall be called Emmanuel. In the New Testament, it's Matthew 123 or 126, and his name shall be called Emmanuel. For whatever reason, it survived, and the rest was falsified, according to this information. It was falsified to say Jesus Christ, a name basically created much later by Paul and other people who were creating this fiction for very specific purposes, and ultimately to create a deity, man, all of the stuff that we know, let's say, Christianity to be based on, which, according to the information pertaining to the truth about Emmanuel, which is contained in a book, and we're getting to Judas here, we really are, contained in a book called the Talmud Jmmanuel. All of the stuff that is different to the New Testament in this book has provoked thinking among certain biblical scholars. Not all. Many people don't want to touch it. But there was a man named Professor James Deardorff. He'd been a professor at Oregon State University. He heard about the original English translation of this Talmud Jmmanuel, and that was in the 1990s. He thought he was about to undertake debunking yet another Bible hoax, and when he came out with his own book, Celestial Teachings, his conclusions were that the Talmud Jmmanuel is the true and original text and writing upon which the book of Matthew was based, not the other way around, and that it resolves over 350 contradictions that otherwise remained in the New Testament, many of which were only even discovered after the discovery of the Talmud. I know this is a lot, but this is, important stuff, and people can listen and/or replay, question, and challenge. But this is very profound because there's even more, and that is that Emmanuel did not die at the crucifixion. And that, in the Bible, there's the missing years of Jesus and all this stuff. And what we learn from the Talmud is that Emmanuel had been taken to India when he was younger. He was taught by meditation masters in the Himalayas and yogis who taught him how to control his body and his heart rate and his breath and everything, because it was known, apparently through and with the help of the Plejarian at that time. They go way back in trying to, contact people, specific people on Earth. It was known that his destiny would be to have this rather rough course in his life, where he would be literally nailed to a cross, and he had to be taught how to go to a death-like state so that he could indeed survive. So there's more about that. But so Judas Iscariot, not Judah Ihariot, was his true scribe and friend who transcribed his teaching, and it was stolen at one point. It was transcribed again by Judas when they had already gone from Jerusalem after the crucifixion, traveled through several countries, including Afghanistan and I think Pakistan and all, into India. His mother, Mary, died during that journey, and she, didn't survive. The rest of them, who was Emmanuel and some others, and Judas, they end up in India in an area called Srinagar, where Mary's tomb actually is, and where the tomb of Isa is, at the base of which, inscrawled into the slab of stone, are the outlines of two human feet with dots in the center showing where nails had been driven through, and a written legend that I'm paraphrasing says something like, Here lies a great teacher who was crucified in his own land and came to teach us. He apparently actually died at the age of 111. He had married at, I think, age 48. He married an Indian woman. He had a number of children, one of whom, Joseph, was the one who brought the transcribed teaching to the then forgotten tomb in Jerusalem 70 years after the crucifixion, and hid the scrolls there so that Billy Meier and a Greek Orthodox priest who was called Isa Rashid would discover this in 1964. That's the tip of that iceberg. So, to recap bullet points, nobody named Jesus Christ ever lived. A man named Emmanuel is the one upon whom that fictitious person was based. He was a great teacher and prophet. He was a contactee of the Plejarians. He taught. He had 17 female disciples as well as the male disciples. He never spoke about a father in heaven. He always spoke about the creation. The universe, the creation in which we all live, and that which is the source of all life, and many more things. So that's a light overview. The Talmud Jmmanuel, we have it on our website for people that would want to read it and compare it to the Bible and study all the other information that's in there about the various religions and their origins and the different cultures. A fantastic book, which when a person reads, they start to see a real life telling of events that took place a couple thousand years ago without mystical things of people floating up into heaven and all of this stuff that doesn't happen in real life. And it didn't happen then. It was remarkable enough that there was Gabriel, who was a Plejarian and who did have a craft and who did take Emmanuel up a couple times, and after certain events, people had seen this and all. So there's nothing to be believed in it. This is where it differs 180 degrees from any religion. There is nothing to believe. You're not told that you worship this person. You're not told you must believe this, or when you die you'll be dipped in boiling lead for eternity. This is what happened, and here you can study this and determine for yourself what you think of it. And Emmanuel, basically brought the...
We need to come back with that right after our first break. We definitely have a lot to cover. Hold on. Okay. We will be right back with more about the Plejarian and Billy Meiers. Stay tuned.
Your conscious connection to a more mindful world. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes Magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On? My passion is sifting through information, research, and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers, and researchers, pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics, and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
Are you feeling lost, confused, absolutely clueless? No way out, over, under, or through? Then it's time to have the Light Keepers, through their conduit, Sharon Lynn Wyeth, guide you by shining their light, illuminating the right path for you. Let Sharon share the wisdom of the ancient masters to guide you on what is coming next for you and to show you the silver lining in your current circumstances. Contact Sharon Lynn Wyeth at info@knowthename.com for a joyful, info-packed Lightkeepers session.
These are the sounds of a dinner that almost didn't happen. A dinner now served, thanks to people like you. Due to COVID-19, 17 million more Americans may face hunger. Feeding America is helping our neighbors in need. And if you're able, you can too. Donations are being accepted at feedingamerica.org/coronavirus. Brought to you by the Ad Council and Feeding America, 200 food banks strong.
Back to Luminescence, you're with your host, Sharon Lynn Wyeth, and our special guest today is Michael Horn. We're talking about the Plejarian. Before we continue, because I want to ask some specifics on this, the differences, are the Plejarian compared to the Pleiadians, are they the same, are they different, or is that part of the Pleiadians also alike?
Yeah, thank you. That's a good one that we will clear up for you. The term Pleiadian was coined in 1975 by the Plejarian, the real extraterrestrials that Billy Meier meets with, the J sounding like a Y, or an E sound in Emmanuel, and in Plejarian, like a Y sound. So Billy Meier asks Semyaze, the extraterrestrial woman, why do you want me to use the term Pleiadian? There is no such thing. And they said, well, in the coming time, after you start to release all of your evidence, your information, the people will start to come out of the woodwork who will claim that they are in contact with us, that they are meeting with us, that they are dating or having babies or whatever, all the crazy stuff, that they're channeling us. And you will know, without having to ask us each time, because there's going to be a lot of this, you will know automatically each time that these people are self-identifying as liars. So don't worry about it. Just carry on, because we don't meet with them. We don't channel through them. We don't have any contacts with anyone else on Earth. This would only confuse things. We don't need a bunch of people running around with different versions, because people change things and you won't change them. And therefore, you are entrusted with this. So there are no such things at all as Pleiadians. And not only do the people self-identify as liars whenever they talk about Pleiadians, but they seem to neglect the fact that, as the Plejarian told Billy as well, and Billy knew, the stars in the Pleiades sun system are too young. They don't have planets that harbor any life. So it's not possible for there to be Pleiadians. So hopefully, because there's no shortage of people online claiming all sorts, I'm in contact with the Pleiadians, this and all this stuff. It's simply not true. And nobody in all of ufology, not one supposed UFO expert, researcher, investigator, let alone delusional contactee, has one piece of actual evidence to support their claims. Billy Meier has already presented over 1,200 clear UFO photos, video, films, thousands, 45,000 plus pages of information. Everything that we call prophetically accurate, we have hundreds of examples, and there's no erroneous information. So people, sure, they have to figure that out for themselves, but I'll just tell you right now, ufology has done more damage to the truth than the government in terms of UFOs, just about, because they have misled people with all this imaginary stuff. They have filled their ranks with profiteers and people who have deliberately suppressed, ignored, even attacked the Meier material, because these people in ufology want to be important and they want to make a buck off of it.
Okay, but we don't really want to go in that direction, Michael. We want to come back to the teaching, okay?
Sure. Go on.
Not the UFO, whatever. That's not the content of our radio show. So I want to come back to the teachings. I do want to say that one of my favorite books, Nine Faces of Christ, is at the very beginning, Eugene Whitworth, who spoke all the ancient languages, researched everything, read ancient texts, traveled everywhere. And he also claims in the preface to his book that the person that we call Jesus Christ did not exist. And then he goes ahead and gives the story and says, here's the story, and here's what every man will go through in their route to ascension. And so it's a story literally to help people go to ascension. And then Taylor Caldwell wrote a book called Judas that literally goes through and says how Judas was the best friend and how there was a mistake and from all the teachings and everything. So the message is getting out there in different ways, because I know all of that came after the Billy Meier material. But you mentioned about Gabriel being a Plejarian, and Billy states that the word God means king of wisdom, and that most of the Elohim and God as presented in the Bible and other holy books are simply referring to advanced non-terrestrials. So do you want to talk to us about that? Were these the visitations of the Plejarian and others, or how does that work?
Well, all of the God or gods, because many religions have gods, of multiple gods. There's multiple religions with gods or a singular God. In any and all of the cases where there really was any being interacting with people. Now you have, I'll just side note, you have plenty of what you would call, pagan religions and more, primitive religions where they were either referring to animals or they were making up their gods. But in the cases where there's reports, even going back to ancient India with the Vimanas and all, those were always extraterrestrials, human extraterrestrials of different sizes, shapes, and forms often, but extraterrestrials who were very advanced. They had high technological knowledge. They also had high consciousness abilities, but as we know, if we just look at history, in each succeeding epoch in history, when people become more evolved and have more abilities, there still is the potential and the application of misuse. And this is what happened during these times that we would call the biblical times, where the God or gods, if you will, of the Old and New Testament also could fall into this capricious, manipulative, exploitative behavior where they lorded it over primitive earth human beings. So even the Plejarian had ancestors who did that kind of thing, and because of that, they state that they have a self-obligated mission. They see it as a mission that they are choosing to do to try to help us get back on the real and true course of life and evolution and truth, the teaching of the creation energy teaching, the spiritual teaching, to help us help ourselves, because we are threatening ourselves literally with extinction, and it has only increased over time. We're still at a very critical point.
They mention, in the books, when I was reading your books, about the soul, and so is the soul a permanent structure of a temporary apparatus, or what's the purpose of the soul?
The way it's defined in the creation energy teaching is the soul is a term that is used to describe what is really called the psyche, which is primarily centralized around the solar plexus. And so the term soul was derived from that. It is temporary. It is not eternal. It is not immortal. It doesn't have soul. It doesn't travel. It doesn't choose its parents. It doesn't have groups. When we talk about that eternal, immortal part of us, in this material, it refers to the undamageable, eternal human spirit. The psyche is primarily located in the solar plexus region. The spirit is located deep within the center of the brain. And it is a part of us that is not a personality element. When you read the teaching, you start to study what they're saying about the human spirit, you realize that we don't have any reference points in our religious or spiritual or New Age information that is comparable to nor can do justice to what is expressed about the spirit and how it progresses. So I'll add one other thing. As far as this teaching is concerned, we need to concern ourselves with what we call ascension, which is really derived from Christianity. It's just derived from the supposed, rising into heaven of the supposed Jesus Christ. What they've said is what ultimately comes over countless reincarnations of the spirit and new incarnated personalities gradually in millions and millions of years, the human being will become much more refined in the physical body until it reaches a place where it starts to go into semi-physical, semi-immaterial body in the high council. And then ultimately, after millions of years there is the re-entry and merging of the full spirit of the, this whole lineage of each individual being, the spirit over its countless different personalities. Then the spirit is conscious, it is highly evolved, highly knowledgeable, and it moves into the first lower levels of the spiritual realm called the Arahat Atharsata, which is also, there's a whole book titled Arahat Atharsata on our website, which teaches, the teaching in that book is primarily from that level as well as from Billy Meier. So we don't get off, the idea, it's kind of a Buddhist idea, getting off the wheel of reincarnation. No, we don't really do that. We keep a progressive evolutionary reincarnation pattern of ever more evolving spirit and personalities coming into incarnation to keep moving towards a long distant state of pure spiritual being and moving into the overall creation, the universe. And then there's billions of years of evolution there. So we don't have that in our religious teaching, certainly. We don't have it in this New Age or spiritual or New Thought or science, because these people don't know that material. When books come out subsequent to what Meier has published about any of these things, there's always a good chance that the people have taken some of that material and developed it in their way. But if you get it directly from the teaching that Meier's, he's got over 60 books out. There's only about 8 in English. But when you read any of the books in this spiritual teaching, this creation energy teaching, you have the opportunity to develop your thinking in ways that you don't imagine otherwise, that affect everything in your here and now life, in what we are doing and living on Earth, right now. And that's, what's truly most important to us.
Okay, so did you start to learn German just so you could read more of his books?
I am always apologetic because I should have learned German much better. I was raised by German-speaking parents who didn't teach it to me, but that doesn't mean I shouldn't have learned it. So, with German, while I clear a dry throat, I progressively understand more and more of it by reading more, but I don't consider myself fluent in it. When I have been in Switzerland each time, I would pick up a little more. I could speak somewhat in German, but then I would leave and I'm not around any German-speaking people, and I'd just didn't have enough motivation to dedicate myself at the time to speaking German. I feel like now when I read some of the German, I read more and understand more of it, but still vast amounts that, I do not, so I have to run it through a translator. It's really recommended to read in German because then you will get the full thrust of what is being said. And to really understand that, you have to study a lot because the German they use is a High German. It's very specific. And even to German speakers, some of the German texts are difficult because they are so, they're quite refined. The information is very specific, and there are terms you can only really understand or get from the little dictionary that they also offer to understand terms that are not understood even correctly by lots of German speakers. So this is a very, very deep and precise study. It's something else. But I'll tell you this: anybody that starts to study the spiritual teaching in English from free articles that we have or into the books starts to certainly has the opportunity for a whole new level of understanding and application in English. And I am more grateful for that than one can imagine because it's beautiful. It's really, especially in these rather challenging times where you get, a world now that is struggling with a very major pandemic that young Edward Albert Meier predicted at least when he was 10 years old in 1947. In detail.
It's interesting. I asked about the German simply because my grandmother attempted to teach me some basic German. She only knew High German. That's from where she came from. And before I went over and lived in Germany for 3 years, but the area where I was living only spoke Low German. And so it was real difficult because things like 20 for High German, which means 20, would be pronounced 20 in Low German. And to me, they're two different sounds, so there's two different words. And so anyway, and that's why I was asking if you were studying that. I have another question, though, on about prayer. And I want to know how prayer works. But we've got our next break coming up. So everybody stay tuned. We're going to find out how prayer works when we come back.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Vox Novus, the new voice. Vox Novus, the new dimension. Vox Novus, thought and movement leaders who will share from their experience and offer tools to help us navigate our rapidly changing world. My name is Victor Furman. Join me every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio for Vox Novus, the new voice.
Mark Twain said the two most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why. The why is hidden in your name. Sharon Lynn Wyeth has created a scientific way of deciphering your name to reveal your contract for this lifetime. And your name even specifies the 7 areas that are subsets of your soul's overall goal. Your name identifies who you are to both yourself and others. What does your name say about you? Contact Sharon Lynn Wyeth at info@knowthename.com for your stunning name review.
If I could be you,
and you could be me,
for just 1 hour,
if you could find a way
to get inside
each other's mind,
walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out, and for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org, brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Welcome back to Luminescence, Common Sense Spirituality. You're with Jerome Lynn Wyeth, and our guest today is Michael Horn. Michael, is the best website for you theyfly.com?
Actually, the newest material is on theyflyblog.com, and theyfly.com also has a couple hundred articles and elements of the spiritual teaching. I hadn't done very much updating on that site since about 2015, but I'm very active. We've got almost 1,500 articles on the blog, including 180 with information from Meier and the Plejarian about COVID for people who want to do that research.
Oh, isn't that fascinating? Okay, so that's going to lead me into, I want to get through two important topics, and this is always our shortest segment, Michael, just to let you know. That one is prayer. I want to start there. And then I want to go to that Billy has stated that the main problem currently is the overpopulation of the planet. And he said that way back early, in his time. And I was just curious if that's where the deep state got that notion. And have you talked about that overpopulation and what he believes needs to happen or what he's seeing? But first, how does prayer work?
Well, in the spiritual creation energy teaching from Meier, going back even to Emmanuel, there's a prayer, and I don't have it memorized, so I won't try to, but it has something to, I won't try to be verbatim, but you pray to your own spirit to open up and make available to you, to guide you in wisdom, but not praying to anything imaginary, certainly outside of yourself, not praying for something to fix your life from the outside and to come and save you and all the rest, because it doesn't work that way. The simple evidence is this. For at least 5,000 years, we've had, Judeo-Christian religions with people praying themselves silly. That means trillions of prayers have been sent heavenward. And while somebody will say, oh, my prayers were answered, I won the lottery, or my foot feels better, whatever it is, it's obvious to any logical person that doesn't really work. There's nobody up there sitting around answering prayers, or by now, virtually every country on the face of the planet would have been destroyed by those who were praying against it, to prevail in war, to destroy. It's just illogical. So, when you pray to your own spirit, and we have a link, I'm sure, to it on theyfly.com, or if anybody emails me, I'll find the link and send it to them. My spirit, thou art omnipotent, is something like that is how I think it starts. So the person recognizes that within them is this energy, this potential of the whole universe, in effect, in there, that the person prays will open and deliver unto their consciousness and their inspiration, everything, that which they can perceive and sense that they can use to move forward, to guide and correct their life, and that their consciousness, which is what we really, in our world and for a long, long time to come, we are not in touch with our spirit, really. I mean, we're in touch with our consciousness, and that has to be developed. And that's what we, in our personalities, our consciousness, it's all tied into this thing we think of as ourself. So we want to evolve that. We want to learn how life works so we don't spend our time praying to outside anything to fix it. But there's nothing in life that's set up for us to fail or be punished. What life is about is learning how those immutable laws, like cause and effect, operate, that we're given at the beginning of existence. When we figure out, well, how do you do this? And we learn to think, like through Billy's book, The Might of the Thoughts, or The Way to Live, then we are operating and living our lives more in harmony. And that means we will be happier, we will be healthier, we will progress in our own little lives. We can be just much more in peace, love, freedom, and harmony. And then that radiates out to the mass, to the world. And that's what human beings are meant to do, not to try to dominate and destroy and plunder and rob and steal and war on each other. It's insane. We're on a little piece of cosmic lint floating around the universe. Who cares about it? If we don't get it straight, we'll reap some very bad consequences.
Does Billy Meier's material, I want to talk about the overpopulation, give us any hope about these times? Because I know that he predicted these times when I've read the books that you have out there. I found it fascinating over the years to watch all of his predictions start coming to pass, even when some of us seem to be doing our very best not to have them come to pass. Sure. Does he give us hope?
Well, hope is not something that is really promoted.
Actionable plans.
Yeah, well,
what
it's
needs
like
to happen?
What we're given is the advice and recommendation about how to accomplish what we want, is our survival, harmony, abundance, all this stuff. And in terms of the overpopulation, they are saying this is the core of your problems because you overbreed and you are trying to put endless numbers of human beings on a finite space. And if you will watch, nature doesn't generally do that, because if any kind of a population of creatures goes beyond a certain limit, then something happens where either other creatures or circumstances of nature then reduce the population. We are not encouraged to think about annihilating or exterminating people, but there are simple methods, such as there's a worldwide birth control, where for a given number of years, new babies aren't born so that people can grow up without struggling and being in strife with each other. The natural attrition of the very elderly takes place. The population naturally reduces down to more livable levels, which are, it's a hard one because we're very overpopulated. So as long as we only are selfish and, oh, well, never mind, I want to have another baby, I want twins, I want triplets, all this stuff that people think that it doesn't matter because I'm important and the rest of that stuff will take care of itself. This is the hard lesson of humankind. There are laws of nature. There are laws that operate whether we like them or not. It's like if you think about the COVID thing, a doctor I know said, the virus loves crowds. And he did a video on this because he knows the Meier materials, right? And basically the message is, the virus doesn't care whether you like to wear a mask or not. It doesn't care whether you want to be in a crowded stadium or indoors with a bunch. The virus loves crowds. It does what it does. So when we learn that things operate outside of what we prefer sometimes, we bring ourselves back into alignment and harmony, then life starts getting better. But that's a hard one because the religions themselves all want people to keep breeding so they have more people to fill their coffers. And it's unstoppable then. But that's what we're taught. So in the cosmic scheme of things, it's a blink of an eye, including whether we survive or not. Because if we destroy our world, then human beings that are bound, the spirits that are bound to this planet, will come back to start again at a very low and difficult level of destruction. They will have to evolve up again and learn never again with atomic weaponry and religions and other destructive things. We will learn to think straight. That's all. So that's simplifying it, but there it is.
So are we always being reborn to this planet, or do we get to choose to go elsewhere also?
You are reborn on the planet on which you die. And even, if we have a third world war and send ourselves back to the Stone Age, this is where although we won't remember previous existences for a long, long time to come, we will be back here. You only can go to another planet under a couple conditions. One, if you're a space-traveling race and you have that capability, you can travel to another planet, and if you live there and you die there, then you'll be reborn there. Or if this planet is absolutely destroyed and no longer habitable, the spirits, unconscious, we don't experience this consciously, the spirits are drawn to migrate to wherever the closest habitable planet is, where the evolutionary level is comparable to what we have now, so that when the spirits would start to come into the incarnational pattern there, or the reincarnation pattern, then they are able to, the personalities are able to live in that realm because their development is at about the same level.
Time flies, Michael. I want to tell everybody again, they can get more material if they're interested in learning more on theyfly.com and on theyflyblog.com for the more recent things. And that'll go out again next week on the newsletter, just to remind you with the website there attached. And I'll put down both theyfly.com and theyflyblog.com. Michael, I want to thank you for joining us. I always appreciate it when you come and join me, and I'm always being tantalized by different ideas to consider. And I always like that because it causes us to think. Next week, we're going to have our guest, and we're going to be talking about what did the group of the Essenes know, and what was important, and where were the origins of the Christian Bible, and what's the history. And our guest is going to be Kimberly Palm, and she's coming on next week. And again, I want to thank everybody for joining us and remind you that we end with Dee L'Amour's song, The Shine, which is just a really positive, uplifting song. And thank you once again for joining us here on Luminescence, Common Sense Spirituality. This is your host, Sharon Lynn Wyeth, signing off.
So long ago, gazing in the mirror, an image of an angel smiling back at her. No wounds or imperfections, just beauty and its glow. Her laughter and her heart, a reflection of her soul. And I want to shine like the sun and smile to stop the rain. And I want to dance with the wind and believe in dreams again. Of life stroke the canvas of her, the light slightly dimmed, her reflection unseen, and all that she knew, and all